Welcome one and all to a little video a little podcast we're gonna do of just discussing Star Wars because we've both seen it twice and we've seen it twice within a short space of time, so it's still fresh in our memory. With me today, as if there's anyone else to be with, is Daniel.
That's so sweet. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. But mainly, I'm going to open up with something. I'm going to open up with what people have been saying negatively about this film.
Because you're about to say I'm going to open up with my feelings then. I was like, it's just going really deep all of a sudden.
No, because I never do that.
I know, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna open basically because everyone has been saying the same things about Last Jedi. For us two, we both think it's a great film. It's not the best Star Wars film, but it is a good film. But there are things that people have been saying. The one thing I'll say is that the people who have disliked this film need to get their head out of the prequel's arse, because the problem with these films, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, is that everyone was hyped about it so much, and in the mindset of the prequels, going, oh my god, there's gonna be this, there's gonna be that, there's gonna be duels, the duels will be as the same as Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's like, no, that was back then. This is today. Different. It's basically the same people who complained about Kylo and Rey's battle in the first film, saying how wooden it was and how crap it was, are the same people who are complaining about this film. And the one of the biggest things they're saying is there's no duel in this film, which, yes, is a disappointment, but it doesn't make the film shit. But just because there's no duel doesn't mean, and I said this to a few people, Episode 4 didn't have a duel, and I'm not counting Old Ben and Vader, because if you just have the duel, it lasts a minute.
It's just kind of like little, I don't know, old men throwing their toys around.
Yeah, which sounds a lot worse than when you actually watch it.
Yeah,
it's horrible, but it's not, and it's yeah. So that did not have a duel. Neither did Rogue One. I know Rogue One isn't part of the main Star Wars story.
Rogue One technically, although it didn't have a duel, it did have that really fucking awesome bit. With, it
had a really good bit with Darth Vader, but still that was very controversial because he's amazing in that and then suddenly really shit in Episode 4, so it's like, well,
and it's basically the same time.
Yeah,
like it's not even that far apart. It's like 20 minutes film time.
Yeah.
I don't know,
but so the main points I keep seeing. Another point I saw was that people keep saying that the middle of the film drags and it's too long, and Luke spends too much time on the island, or Rey and Luke spend too much time on the island. That is the narrative. That's where you get the bulk of the story from. That's the point. Like you said a couple of days ago, you learn the Jedi history, and
all the mythology of the Jedi and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, to be honest, people complaining about the island stuff, I don't really understand, because for me, that was like the most fun part of the movie, was learning about all the old Jedi and the new Jedi and Grey Jedi and what Luke's been through. All that was interesting, because to be honest, I watched Star Wars. I mean, we all watch Star Wars for various things, but I get the most out of it for the Jedi stuff, for the Jedi and the lightsaber duels and stuff like that. So although there wasn't a lightsaber duel in this movie, I did get a lot out of watching all those scenes on the island with Luke and Rey and her learning about the Jedi ways and stuff like that. So I don't really understand the complaints of we spent too much time on the island.
Yeah, because that's
plus,
the whole.
Yeah. As you say, the Episode 5, Luke spent just as much time on Dagobah, and no one complained about that.
Yeah, exactly. And the worst thing is, people, when they watched Empire Strikes Back for the first time in the 80s, a lot of people probably said for the first time, this is a rubbish film. Luke spends all of his time on Dagobah and then goes to Bespin and then loses. Like, probably everybody thought that was the worst film. And then they dropped the bombshell with Darth Vader being the father. Oh no, blah, blah. That people at the time must have thought that was a horrible film. But then when Return of the Jedi came out, everyone about a few years later was like, actually, Empire Strikes Back is my favourite film. This is the same thing that's going to happen with this film. Give it Episode 9, when Episode 9 explains everything about Episode 8, then everyone will suddenly go, do you know what? Last Jedi was the best film out of the three. It's like, this is the context of this video I'm trying to explain, is that Episode 8, The Last Jedi, is the middle of a three-parter. You cannot complain about things not being explained if it hasn't finished the story.
The whole point of a two-parter, or the whole point of the middle film in a trilogy, is to leave unexplained questions.
Yeah, that's the entire... The whole... I remember J.J. Abrams saying, the first is the opening and the introduction. That's the point. The second is the narrative and the bulk and the story.
And the middle.
Yeah, and the third is each character, or all the characters, finishing and completing and ending their story and finishing their quest, and that's the point.
I wanna come back to that point a little later on when we get into like further into this, but like, to do with Finn.
Oh, okay, fair. Oh yeah, and I'll say about the unanswered stuff as well. But yeah, and the last thing is that the reason why everyone is so angry is because, yeah, like I said, it didn't explain things that people wanted. Basically, every Star Wars fan had wild theories about who Snoke is, who Rey's parents are, what Finn's actual background is, whether Luke will turn evil or Rey will turn evil because of the poster. The thing with our Star Wars fans is that, yes, we like to over exaggerate what we think is going to happen because of the past. That's how it works. So I remember there was an image that I shared in SNR. Shout out to SNR. I shared an image saying Star Wars: The Last Jedi, a film that is letting go of the past and thinking of the future, to a bunch of fans who are clinging onto the past and are fearful of the future, which is true. The Star Wars fans all are, because all they want to do is just relate everything back to the past. When this film is the first Star Wars film to completely erase the past, more or less, and go on with a new hope or a new rebellion. That's the whole point.
It's not like a beat for beat like Episode 7 was. Also, before we move on, do you want to clarify what SNR is for those that don't know?
Oh yeah, SNR is a group founded and made by Miran Patel, who is a geek group that's on Facebook. If you type in SNR and follow it,
I believe do you still have to request to join? You have to still request to join, but
find out all the details through me, or go on Facebook itself and discover for yourself, because I don't remember. I've posted in the group often enough, but I do not remember. But
I see. Yeah, if you go on there, it's like a nerdy discussion post when like movies come out, and like TV shows, video games, stuff like that. So
yeah,
if you're interested in that kind of stuff, find that on Facebook. Just type in SNR.
Yeah, SNR, Sierra November Romeo. That's just basic. Yeah, that's military slang, Dan. By the way, that's just to let you know.
I did get that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right. And the last thing as well is that everyone from Episode 7, when they watched it, complained about how it's a rehash of Episode 4. Last Jedi effectively is the main bulk of the story is a rehash of Episode 5. So if you think about Episode 5, the rebellion leave Hoth and flee, and they they have a battle on Hoth and then they flee. Same with the beginning of The Last Jedi.
Except it's twisted. They flee first, then have a battle at the end.
Yeah, more or less. So they flee, they're being chased, and then they have a battle. Same sort of bulk. Luke, meanwhile, is away, or / Rey, meanwhile, is away on an island / in Dagobah, training, doing whatever, then comes back and then kicks ass. That's literally Episode 5. Same sort of way. I mean, you could say that with Episode 5 originally, where Han and Chewie and them, they all ran away, went to Bespin, and then got captured, and then blah blah blah. And like we said as well, because Last Jedi has little influences of the Return of the Jedi as well. Like when Rey comes up in the lift with Kylo and is like, "Oh, I sense the conflict in you," blah blah blah, and then they take on Snoke. All of that
defeat Snoke as well.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going to go from here?
Yeah, all of that is Return of the Jedi. That whole entire scene. So now they've got nothing else to rehash.
They've basically told Episode 4, 5 and 6
in two films.
So
yeah.
What the fuck are they going to do with Episode 9?
Exactly. That's what I love about this film. It's unpredictable. Even J.J. Abrams, he loved it so much that he didn't know. Even people in Star Wars don't know how it's going to end.
So that's what I mean. I feel like they've given it now to J.J. Abrams in Episode 9. He's watched Episode 8 and gone, "Oh fuck, I can't just do Return of the Jedi. What the fuck do I do for Episode 9?
Yeah, exactly. So right, so now we'll talk about your favourite moments of the film.
Oh, favourite moments of the film. Do you know what, just before we move on that, I didn't actually understand. It didn't register to me that Hoth, like with the snow and the bunker at the end and all that sort of stuff, is exactly the same imagery with the salt. And there's a bunker at the end.
Yeah, it's correct.
And then the walkers versus the guerrilla walkers. Do you know what I mean?
It's the similarities.
I didn't actually register until you just said about Hoth, and I was like, "Oh fucking hell, it is."
It's
just flipped around.
It's strange, and it's all right. While you're thinking of that, I'll say that the most criticised scenes.
Okay.
So the first one and the biggest one is Leia's scene in space. Which
I've just got that song going on in my head. Dee 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 dee.
The problem with that is that, I mean, yeah, it looked stupid, but it was great to watch. But the thing is, a lot of people keep saying the same thing. Oh, Jedis can't fly through space, blah blah, or it's stupidly more unpredictable, or the science of space. If you would freeze and your head would explode, blah blah. You can't discuss the science of anything in the Star Wars universe. You can't go, oh, the science of space is... I'm sorry, explain the science of a lightsaber. Explain the science of...
Actually, I believe they have explained the science of a lightsaber, but in the comic... Or not in the comic, in the graphic novels? Comics?
No, they have. But I mean, in the science of our world. So what people are trying to do is relate our science with their science.
If we could relay our science to their science, would we not already have lightsabers?
Exactly, that's the point. And... the scene was great, but a lot of people keep saying, oh yeah, flying through space. Technically, you don't fly through space, you move through space. Because if you think about the Force, and every time they describe the Force, it's, oh, you control things that move in between every object around you and blah, blah, blah. So if you think about that and you're in space...
it's a thing that's constant, like, it's always
there, around you and everywhere.
It's in everything. Yeah. You just... use it. You just sort of, I don't know, like what's the right word? Like lock into it,
manipulate it ish.
Manipulate it, or like I don't know. You kind of tune in. I guess you tune in your senses with the forces.
Yeah.
And inside everything else, and use that to shift things.
Yeah. And it was really good of a scene because she was in space. She probably used the Force subconsciously to protect her so that she didn't die. Instantly in space, and then she just maneuvered. That's why she did that hand flick, and then if you notice, all the sort of debris around her hand shifted as if there was something around her, and then she just maneuvered herself. Because again, you don't fly through space; you move in space. So all she did was just move towards the door, and then she was back on the ship. Like, I mean, Jedis have always got weird ability, like force jump. I mean, that's a weird bit, and the fact and the ability to land like a cat
without breaking your legs.
Yeah, always landing on their legs from about 125 feet in the air, not breaking their leg.
Mace Windu is still alive. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So it's
Mace Windu is actually Snoke. Just saying. I don't believe that last one actually. I'll take that back. But I do believe Mace Windu is probably still alive somewhere. Obviously not in like episode 8. He'd be dead by then. I reckon. But
he probably was still around between episode 3 and 4 doing whatever. What other controversial things were there? I mean, everyone keeps. I don't know your views on Poe, because I really like Poe as a character.
I really like Poe.
Yeah, he's just like he's a rebellion version of Han Solo, because Han Solo was a smuggler, so he was just his own person. I feel like if Han joined the rebellion when he was younger, that's the exact same person he would have been.
I feel like, well, I really like Poe. I mean, I can understand there's a lot of controversy. Is there not a lot of controversy around him sort of rebelling against the rebellion?
I think so, yeah. I think this film sort of did ignite that, saying he disagreed with some of the decisions that the resistance made.
However, he only made those decisions based on the knowledge he had at the time, meaning he didn't realise, like, he thought that he didn't have all the knowledge basically that he needed to. The only reason that she didn't tell him what was going on was so that was so that Finn and what's her name, Rose, could have that whole story away on Canterbite. That's the only reason that they didn't tell Poe what was going on, because Poe could then send Finn and Rose off to have their own little story, so that they could have a little bit of filler in the film. That's a lot of people are saying that like Canterbite was kind of unnecessary. It was just a thing to give Finn and Rose this little bit of plot to fill out the movie a little bit, and just have them there. Like, whereas you could have skipped all that, just had Admiral what's her name? Admiral something. The woman that takes over from Leia.
Oh, I know who you mean. Carry on. I know who you mean.
Yeah, that lady. If she had just told Poe what was going on, then yeah, there would be a lot less tension. However, it wouldn't be. You wouldn't be able to send Finn and Rose off to have their own little mission on Canterbite and do that whole relationship thing, which, to be honest, I didn't really buy. Like, I thought that they were good friends, growing friends.
Admiral Holdo,
there you go. I thought they were good growing friends. I thought it was a nice relationship, but I always thought that Finn liked Rey.
I knew that would never happen.
I knew it would never happen, but I knew that Finn liked Rey. So when like Rose liked Finn, I was like, does he even like her in that way? Like, it just feels like they're
That's why when
barely friends.
That's why when he crashed into the ship and then when she crashed into his ship on Crate and then she kissed him, he didn't even do it back and he looked really confused.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he felt the same way. And the thing is, I think that's key as well, because there was a lot of this there was a lot of this discussion beforehand where they were going to be like, oh, Poe and Finn might be together and it might be the first LGBT thing on Star Wars. They were all going to do that, and that's still technically unconfirmed, because yeah, she kissed him, he didn't kiss her, and he didn't. I mean, yeah, he showed feeling for her when he was dragging her body back to the base. Yeah, all of that, but you know, still.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what any normal human being would have done.
Yeah, exactly.
So who cares for another son, like someone else?
Yeah, it's just not instant love or anything like that. And all of that was a bit. All of that whole scene was a bit. When she,
I fucking hated that scene. I'm just gonna say it. I hated that they robbed Finn of that lovely little death scene.
Yeah.
Because I know that you were saying, like, obviously we've only had him for 2 films, and I get that, but I feel like if he was gonna die, that was his moment. And I was actually ready to like fully just pour out tears in that moment because of the music building up. Like, he was ready, like he's come full circle. He started off as a coward, fleeing the First Order. He dies as a courageous rebellion soldier. I was just like, this is like, and he keeps saying like, oh, you know, like, I know I'm going to die, but I'm not going to let them win. I was like, it's such a powerful scene. And then Rose comes out of nowhere and just fucking ruins the whole thing. And then on top of that, they did the whole kissing thing, which I was angry enough of her that she robbed him of that cool death scene, that really powerful moment.
Yeah.
That would have been a really, like, I think, really big talked about moment throughout, like, Star Wars fans. But then on top of that, then they shoved the whole kissing thing on, and I'm like, I'm so angry about her robbing his death scene that the kissing thing just made me more angry.
Yeah, the whole thing, that speech, the whole we saved the ones we love. It just seems so forced.
Like, what was it? That's how we're going to win. Not fighting the things we not fighting what we hate, saving what we love, or something like that.
So that was a very forced. I feel like that was a very Disney line. I feel like if it was a Disney film, that's the sort of thing to say, like basically, like a little cliff line sort of. I just thought nah, but I do know what you mean. That scene was a bit. Ugh. What was I saying? Oh, with Poe. No, yeah, Poe's amazing. Like, my favourite bit of it is that someone said in SNR as well, which I'm trying to figure out who it was. It was Rashad. Yeah, he said like Poe's handbrake turn.
Oh, the handbrake turn when he defeats like the 2 little Star Trek.
Yeah,
and then they're just turning around like, what the fuck, and then they're dead.
Yeah, that was really good.
Love that.
Like, Poe's awesome. Like, his scenes are amazing because it brings back, because you need that element. It's like Han in the Falcon when he came back and did his little moves. It's the sort of same thing. And then that's what I loved about Chewie when he was trying to do it when they were on the Battle of Crate and flying around with those annoying porgs in the way. But I love the fact that Chewie flew effectively the same sort of style as Han by himself, which is pretty cool because it just shows how, you know, good Chewie is as a pilot by himself. But yeah, no, that was wicked.
I've got to say though, like, I mean, Poe on that opening bit where he's, you know, like fighting all those TIE fighters and stuff and taking out all the cannons, fucking love that scene. Partnered with my favourite moment, or one of my favourite moments from 7, where the rebellion come in to save like Han and Chewie and Finn when they're being captured, and Poe by himself takes out like, the camera just circles around, you see him take out like 7 or 8 TIE fighters.
Oh yeah,
like it's nothing.
Yeah, and
the music's playing. Oh, it's just so good. I fucking love those scenes.
Yeah,
it just every single film he has a moment where he's piloting a ship and just defeating a fuck ton of TIE fighters like it's nothing. He's just so. I love those scenes. They're brilliant scenes.
No, they like you just said. It goes well with the music. And speaking of which, you said something last week which made a lot of sense, because when you first watched the film, when you first heard the music of sort of Poe / the Resistance, you thought a lot more of it, because the first time you hear it in the first film you think, oh, it's a good theme, but you don't think much of it. But then when you hear it again in another film, you're more hyped because that music is brought back in another great scene, and it makes it like there's new themes basically in this film, kind of like, and then they threw the original themes in from other films, but like they made new themes sort of come alive, if that makes sense.
I think it was just because we already had 6 Star Wars films, and we had them for a very long time. And you've heard the same themes over and over and over and over and over again. Like both watched Star Wars countless times, all 6 films, and those were the themes. Do you know what I mean? Like that was it. That was Star Wars themes. That was the music. Never again are you going to get another Star Wars thing. Then 7 came out, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then they wanted to do a whole new soundtrack, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure how I feel about it. And then I heard all the different like themes and music that they did for the Star Wars 7 soundtrack, and I was like, yeah, it's alright, I suppose, but I just don't feel like it's Star Wars. Then you get to episode 8, they played the same themes again,
but just different
and
twisted,
just slightly different, or they're slightly newer, or they're the same themes from the older films or whatever it was. There were some themes in 7 from there, and when those themes from 7 were in there, and I related it to those moments from 7, but they were in episode 8 over another cool moment.
Yeah.
Like that one you were saying, like the Poe theme where he comes to save the Resistance in 7, and then it plays again in episode 8. It got me really hyped because I was like, this is an actual. Because now I've had it in 2 films, and I've had 2 years or so to digest that and have that relating to Star Wars, like the other 6 films so much. Where I've seen Star Wars 7 a few times. Now it is kind of Star Wars music to me. It's just part of the massive soundtrack that we already have for the first 6 films.
Yeah.
It's just now been added in, but it took me 2 or so years to get to that point, because when I first heard it, I was just like, it's cool music, but it's not Star Wars.
Yeah.
And now we're in episode 8 and it's playing again. I'm like, yeah, this is Star Wars music. Like you relate it. It takes a long time for you to adjust your mindset to like allow that in, because you're so fixed with how many times you've seen and how many times you've heard these themes from the first 6 films that it's so hard to accept anything else as being Star Wars. You're like, oh yeah, it's like someone did these 6 films as themes, and trying to bring someone in, like trying to bring, I think it was John Williams anyway that did it, but
yeah, John Williams did it.
It's still, I don't know, I just feel like when you're trying to bring something new in for something you've had so long, it's just really hard to relate that to the thing you're trying to relate it to.
Yeah. No, I agree, definitely. And they did a few hidden things, which I told you one of them in this film with the music. Like, I mean, one of the obvious ones was when Rey and Chewie were up in the air on the Battle of Crate, and then it played the original theme from episode 4 and episode 5 when they're in the Millennium Falcon fending off TIE fighters, and it plays that traditional battle music. Dun, 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 dun,
oh,
that thing.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
When that came back, I probably had the same feeling as you, where you get hyped even more because it brings back that classic theme that everyone knows, and it's always the same sort of scene.
It was very short, but it was very very effective.
It was short, effective, and it was mixed as well. It wasn't even, because it was quite clever, because when it went into that music, it even went into that quality so it went into that quality that it would have sounded like in the originals. Do you see what I mean? So it didn't sound too instrumental it sounded exactly the same as the originals, with a little sort of remix between the beginning and the end of the theme. I've listened to it way too many times to understand, but yeah, that's one thing. Another thing I told you as well was when Luke force ghosts himself to Crate to speak to Leia, and then walks out of the mine, and that music plays in the background. It plays his equivalent of his father's Imperial March. So if you hear the Imperial March, the traditional Darth Vader theme, and then put it side by side with the theme that comes out, the theme that plays when Luke's walking out, it's the same. It's just Luke's is slightly sped up and has like a slightly different tempo, but it effectively is the same theme. So what John Williams did was give Luke, and it makes sense for that film, walking out in front of an army is the sort of thing Darth Vader does, or Darth Vader did in his days between episode 3 and 4. He did it as it. So in the Disney comics that have been released, I've seen a few pages where it's like him walking in front of an army, or him just taking on people, and you can imagine the theme, but the theme is obviously him. And then when you hear that theme when Luke walks out, it's his own version.
There's like a Luke version of that theme.
Yeah, of the Imperial
It's like
theme.
a really powerful theme, but
yeah. It's like him becoming kind of like his father, but in terms of how powerful he can be.
Yeah.
And that scene was amazing. That's my favourite scene of the whole film, the Force Ghost fight between Kylo and Luke. Even though there was no battle, I don't care, because I can see the layer of it, that it was the biggest tribute to Ben Kenobi. Because Ben Kenobi, he knew he was going to lose the fight. He knew he wasn't going to beat him, So what he did was he stalled. Exactly when Poe looked at the fight and realised, oh, he's stalling, he wants us to escape. It was exactly what Ben Kenobi did when he fought Vader on episode 4, and he knew that he couldn't beat him, so he was stalling Vader so that they could escape. And the fact that he did it in a Force Ghost way, he just basically did it the reverse of Ben Kenobi. So Ben Kenobi fought, then became a ghost, whereas Luke used the power of his Force and the island to create a Force Ghost to cause the biggest diversion so the new rebellion could escape. And that's a key thing I need to discuss with as well, the new rebellion. But yeah, that is my favourite scene because it's the biggest tribute to Ben Kenobi. Because Ben Kenobi was the thing that made him leave Tatooine in the first place. Ben Kenobi was the thing that kept him alive.
Well, it was, in lack of a better term, it was kind of, I know Yoda taught him the majority of stuff, but Ben was kind of a master to him.
Yeah, and he looked after him between episode 3 and 4, isn't he? He watched over him. Obviously we'll know more when the Kenobi film comes out, but he watched over him.
I totally forgot there was a Kenobi film coming out. I'm so hyped.
Exactly. But is
Ewan McGregor confirmed to be in that?
It is not. It's not confirmed because it's so long away. I think they're going to start pre-production in 2019. So it
better be Ewan McGregor.
He's the right age to do it. So
I was going to say he is the right age. It's just he's already Obi-Wan. You know, like he's just, there's no need to recast. He's still around. He's willing to do it.
Yeah. Another thing I want to discuss as well is the Resistance itself. The Resistance has become as bad as the First Order. I'll explain why. So basically, the moment when they go on, the reason why the planet Rose and Finn go to
Canterbury.
The reason why they go to Canterbury and the reason why the whole thing exists with the code breaker and stuff. The reason why that all exists is because they're seeing how, because that whole planet, they're all rich because they sell to the First Order, but
supposedly.
Well, yeah, but you also,
that's what they think.
Yeah, but then you see it in the ship when he shows the schematics.
They also sell to the Resistance.
Yeah, they sell to the Resistance as well. So it's the fact that, and a line that the Codebreaker said, he said, be free, don't join, which is more relevant now because the war has got so much worse because it's just killing each other and dominating each other. Because the rebellion wasn't like that. The rebellion hid away. The rebellion protected people. Blah blah. Now it's the Resistance. The Resistance are a lot more domineering. They're a lot more. We're going to do this. We're going to destroy you. Do you see what I mean? So the Resistance got worse. They got as bad as the Empire back in the day. So that's why when they got to Crate and they called for an SOS, nobody responded. The reason why nobody responded is because no one wants to get involved. No one wants to get involved in a battle and die. What's the point?
That's true, actually. I hadn't even thought about that.
Exactly. So that's why nobody responded. That's why that scene was so key when they were like, oh, we sent the message and everyone's read it, but no one's responded. And then it sort of zoomed in on Leia's face and was like, well, we called and no one's answered, blah, blah. That's the whole point.
She's saying that the spark of hope has finally gone out.
I think she said, yeah. She says something like that. But that's the point. It's the fact that the rebellion turned itself into the Resistance, and they finally realised at that point that they became an army. They became equally as bad as the First Order. So when people were selling to the First Order and the Resistance, they get the better life. They're rich. They're not involved in the war. They get to stay alive. They're not touched by either party, and they're getting the better life. And then when they don't involve themselves in battles, so that's the importance of that scene. The Resistance became worse, and Leia realised that at the end. So that's why Leia and Poe were like, "Oh, we are the spark that will ignite the new rebellion." Blah blah. So that's why right at the end when they're on the Falcon and they became the new rebellion. So that's what Episode 9 is going to be all about.
But maybe building up their ranks and stuff. Is that what because everyone keeps going on and making a big deal about this scene with the kid at the end, where he's got the little ring and he looks up to the sky and he lifts his broom like a lightsaber and all that. But is that the point of that? I.e., when she gives him the ring and he has the ring and he twists it to reveal the rebellion symbol. Is that the reason? They're going across the galaxy, building those secret numbers, so when they call, eventually, all of these things that the Empire or the First Order don't know are even threats yet, will all suddenly rise up and be like, "Oh, by the way, we're everywhere."
Yes and no. Well, I believe yes and no, but a little bit of yes and no. So basically, yes, that scene at the end was about how there will be people everywhere, but the importance of that scene, and I realised it the second time I watched it, and a lot of people have not picked up on this.
I know what you're going to say.
Okay, a lot of people have not picked up on this. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. At the beginning of the scene, Luke.
Sorry, I just did a gesture to Shai to let him know exactly what bit I meant.
The kids are talking about Luke becoming. So they're talking about Luke Skywalker, blah blah, and the great thing he did at Crate, the thing he did to save the new rebellion, blah blah.
I didn't understand how they knew about that though.
I think it's just word of mouth spread. I think
I was just saying, but across planets, is that a thing?
It's Star Wars universe. Everything gets spread around.
I suppose it didn't really exactly tell you when that was in time. That could have been months or years after.
Yeah, exactly.
So I suppose, yeah.
And the importance of that scene. So the way how Luke earlier on in the film is like, I failed my students, blah blah, and I became, Luke Skywalker, the legend. Like he hated himself for it because he became a legend for the wrong reason. No, sorry,
he became a legend for failure.
Yeah, he became a legend and failed, and it was bad. But at the end of the film, he became a legend for so much more, and the kids showed that. So the kids were telling a little story to each other about how, all this happened and all that happened, and obviously those kids were involved because they helped Finn and Rose with the whole animals and stuff, because that was one of the kids. So yeah, they're telling that story, blah blah, and he becomes that legend. So he is now that legend because he's done such a great thing. Mm-hmm. They get chased, and then he walks out. The one thing that you just pointed out that everyone, I don't think, has actually realised. I didn't realise it in the first time I saw it. I missed it.
I realised it in the first time, but I thought, no, maybe that's not what it is. Then I watched it a second time, and it is definitely a thing. Right? It's very subtle. It's very quick.
Yeah, but it's not. So basically, in that scene, when the kid walks out the room and picks up the broom, he doesn't pick it up. He uses the Force to bring it to him. Yeah, mind blown.
Everyone's going. Ooh. Do you know what I was like? Because I feel like a lot of people are gonna. Well, a lot of people who haven't realised, if they've only seen it once, are now going to be like, "Oh, does he?" And then they're going to go watch it again and be like, "Oh yeah,
exactly." But the little kid. But there's two main key points to that scene. The thing you just said, and something I'll explain in a second. But yeah, he uses the Force to bring the broom to him. But it's small amount, like a meter, just brings the broom to him, and then sweeps. And then he looks up into the sky, like Luke did when he was looking at the twin suns. So little callback to that.
And he sees some sort of ship going to light speed.
Yeah, exactly. He then holds his broom like a lightsaber because he wants to be like the legend Luke Skywalker, and he's got the rebellion ring. So it's like he wants to be.
Oh, so he's becoming a Jedi. He wants to become a Jedi for the right reasons.
Yeah, exactly. So he wants to be something better, like Luke said in the Battlefront games, which I'll discuss about one more. Yeah, but yeah, he wants to be a legend. He wants to be like that, and then that's why just before it then cuts to black, he then sort of slowly brings out the broom to his right, like he's holding a lightsaber in front of someone, like isn't it? Like he's sort of has his own stance. It's really weird, but it's a very good scene. But yeah. So 50-50 with what you said with the rebellion, the new rebellion. So there'll be people out there everywhere, but it also is heavily meaningful to Rey because Kylo said to Rey, "Oh, your parents are nobodies, blah blah. They're nothing, blah blah." That could either be the biggest double bluff, because Kylo could be manipulating her to join him because obviously he's got nothing left. He thinks he's killed his mum. He did kill his dad. He killed Snoke, so he now has an entire army. He wants Rey to join him, so obviously he's going to say things to manipulate her to join him. So, your parents are nobodies, blah blah, just join me, and trying to twist her because obviously the only thing that she's wanting is her parents. So to destroy that will then make her turn to him, but then he fails. So that could be one bluff. I
don't think that's what he was going for though, because the way he says it is just.
It's too
and even
natural,
he doesn't even say it. She says it. Like she realizes it because she already knows.
Yeah.
He says you already know, and she does know. Yeah.
But I agree more with this fact that her parents are nobodies, and because her parents are nobodies, that massively makes a difference in the new universe because anyone can be a Jedi.
See, you say the new universe. However, I was watching a video earlier by someone that's a huge Star Wars fan online that I watch quite regularly. And in his video, he actually mentioned that before Anakin and before the episodes and stuff, if you read any of the graphic novels or comics, whatever, or watch any of the TV shows, people have always been able to become Jedi and use the Force. No, you don't have to be born from Jedi blood. I.e., you don't have to be the son or daughter of Obi-Wan or Anakin to be a Jedi. You can just be you can just be a nobody and become a Jedi. It's always been like that. The only reason people think that you need to be related to someone who is like blood related to someone who is able to use the Force or is a Jedi like Obi-Wan or Anakin is because that's all we've seen so far. I.e., Episode 1, Anakin was, born with that special stuff in his blood, and then Episode 2 and 3 was all about his rise, and then he gives birth to Leia and Luke. And this is another point. Just because Luke became a Jedi, until Episode 8, Leia never showed any signs of being a Jedi or using the Force, and she was blood to arguably the most powerful Jedi of all of them, right? So, necessarily it can work the other way around as well. I.e., you can be a nobody and become a Jedi, or you can be related to or arguably the most powerful Jedi in the universe and still not have any connection to the Force whatsoever. Or she had a little bit of connection to the Force, but it's not like she's holding a lightsaber. She didn't become a Jedi.
Yeah, she was just Force sensitive,
and she barely used the Force.
Yeah, but no, I do agree. So that's what it is. So that's what that end scene also symbolized. That he just used the Force and he held it like a Jedi and looked up in the sky. So it's a little bit of both. A little bit of the new rebellion will be everywhere. There will be a new rebellion that will spark in the universe. And the fact that anyone can be a Jedi, meaning that it's not just locked to the films of have to be related, has to be somewhere down the line, blah 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 blah, the past. See what I mean? So that's that.
I've just had a theory or a thought that in Episode 9, do you think, I'm going to put this to you, do you think that at the end of Episode 9, because of that scene at the end of Episode 8 with the little kid and using the little bit of the Force, do you think that in Episode 9 they will somehow figure out how to make lightsabers again? Because she's got the books now on how to make a lightsaber. She's got the kyber crystal, she's got the broken lightsaber. She might use it for a double lightsaber staff. But do you think that at the end of Episode 9, or by the end of Episode 9, because of that thing at the end of Episode 8, do you think that they'll rebuild a version of the Jedi's, not the Jedi Council, but like a version of bringing back all the Jedi, i.e., So like when basically what Return of the Jedi you thought was going to happen, they actually literally show you the Jedi coming back in like a grand scale way.
Maybe.
Or do you think because they're kind of going for like balance in the Force, i.e., you can't just have all light and you can't just have all dark. You need to have both.
Yeah.
Coexisting.
It's like the Matrix and Neo and Agent Smith. It's more or less. I don't think that will happen. Only because, I mean, yes, it will teach Rey how to build a lightsaber and use kyber crystals properly. But the problem is, Rogue One filled that gap when they took all the kyber crystals to make the Death Star or power.
But this is what I mean. Yeah, it's like, how are you going to get more lightsabers?
Yeah, so they could have.
I think there is a planet in the comics or the graphic novels where you mine.
They mine crystals.
You can mine kyber crystals, but I can't remember if that planet's been destroyed in the film lore or not.
They could. I mean, they could relate back to that, or there could be a place where there are randomly kyber crystals. But in film logic, at the moment, there is nowhere because they were all taken to power the Death Star, which then blew up twice. So it's I don't know. Oh, and that's another thing as well. Rogue One had, and I don't know if you saw, Rogue One had an Easter egg for Episode 8.
Did it?
Yes, the scene where Jyn is sneaking into the base with the guy, I forgot his name, and then they're looking for the Death Star plans.
Yeah.
They're reading out a few things. Do you remember one of the things they say is black saber?
Oh yeah, black saber. Yeah.
One of the things they say.
There's a literal black saber in one of the TV shows though. That's literally a black lightsaber.
Yeah, it's in Clone Wars.
I mean, I haven't watched it, but I know of the black saber.
No, fair. But they also reference hyperspace tracking. They say hyperspace tracking because it's never happened at all. Because even that threw me. The first time I saw Episode 8, I was like, wait, hang on. So hyperspace tracking has never existed until randomly now. It seems a bit weird. But then it's in Rogue One.
I'm going to need to rewatch Rogue One, I think.
Yeah, if you watch Rogue One,
because now I'm wondering if there's more Easter eggs in that little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because they said Black Saber, that was an Easter egg that everybody knew.
Yeah.
Hyperspace tracking. Now I'm going to have to rewatch it, and if that's another Easter egg. So what else is in there?
Yeah, that's true.
Because they list off quite a few things.
Yeah,
it might just be random. I don't know. But.
And it makes sense because obviously it will probably take years to plan the hyperspace tracking, and then the time they finally do it is the time they use it for Snoke's ship when they leave it in Snoke. So yeah, but then that as well. Oh, another thing as well is I loved Luke's. I love Luke in this film.
See, a lot of people hated Luke in this film.
I know because of how he was portrayed and how they changed him. But to be completely honest, that's how he. Like, for example, I love the scenes when it flashed back to Kylo, and he made the rash decision to, because he had that sort of millisecond thought of, he thought for a second he was going to do the right thing by killing him to save the galaxy. Blah blah. That's his old rash Tatooine thinking. Because think about it. When in episode 4 he was like, "Oh, I used to bullseye wombats in my T60." So he used to kill animals just for the fun of it. He used to and remember he was forced into the whole rebellion and becoming a Jedi when he was quite young. So he was thrown into it from the mindset of that. The mindset of that, and then growing up over 4, 5, and 6 with the rebels and stuff like that. They believe, you should always do the right thing at the right time. And then when he became a master and trained others, and then he saw the potential of Kylo turning evil and killing people and blah blah, he regressed back to his mindset when he was younger of, I could just do the right thing now and end you. And that is what Luke would have thought back then, and that's what Luke has thought now. And that's what I love about Luke, and the fact that on the island he just he just wanted to be left alone. Because like he said in the film, he went to that island to die. Same as Yoda. Yoda went to Dagobah to die. He didn't go to. He didn't.
Well, he went there because he was exiling himself.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't. He didn't plan to leave, or he didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to go off and have an adventure," like in Bilbo. Like no, he stayed there and he planned to die. That's the same with Luke, and Luke just became the same as Yoda. He just stayed on that island, and then he eventually trained Rey.
Arguably a nicer island than Yoda. True.
And I like the fact that he explained about the whole Jedi mythology that if you strip away, I mean they look great and they look amazing, but then if you strip away all the mythology, they failed every single time because it was the Jedi's fault for the rise of the Emperor, the rise of the Empire, and the destruction of the Jedi and the Republic. It was all it was all the Jedi's fault. And it was all because of one Jedi Knight that all of this happened, i.e. Anakin Skywalker. So the mythology of the Jedi has always been failure. They've always tried, and then they've always been looked at as these sort of anti-heroes from the not the Republic's point of view, but from the people on, for example, the people on Coruscant. Because I read something about this, how the people on Coruscant view the Jedi Council as they're kind of like the government, these pompous people that take decisions to their own and just go out and do things and get people killed and blah blah, and they fail mostly but to get one little goal. And I mean, overall it might benefit us not being taken over and stuff, but they do so much damage in the long run. And that's what Luke's trying to say. And then Luke basically in a way confirmed himself to be a grey Jedi like Qui-Gon Jinn when he said to Rey, "Oh, you can what can you see?" And Rey was like, "Oh, I can see the Force in between blah blah, I can feel the Force inside me," and all that stuff. And then Luke said, "See, and that power shouldn't be with the Jedi. It shouldn't belong to the Jedi. Don't you see that? Blah blah." He was trying to show her that.
I know. He was saying there's a balance in the Force, as in a balance in all things. I.e., where there's peace and growth, there's violence. Where there's life, there's death. Where there's warmth, there's cold. There's always an opposite, and having that opposite is balance. If you have too much of one thing, it's you can't live like that. The world and the universe can't survive like that. And basically he was just saying that just to think that Force belongs to the Jedi is vanity. I.e., if there's too much, you can't the Jedi have always said, just use the light side of the Force, you never ever go into the dark side of the Force because that's wrong, and you can't do that. Whereas what Luke did is just to say, well, no, you can use both, it's based on the decisions that you make.
Yeah.
I.e., like, if the light dies, the Force dies with the Jedi. Like, it's complete vanity. I.e., use both, because that's true balance.
Yeah, yeah. And I loved. I absolutely loved the Rey scene when she went into the pit and she had that whole vision. Because that was really good. Because that was, I mean,
I found that very strange.
It was strange to watch.
Very, like, I don't know.
It's
It was very disturbing for some reason, even though it was completely normal.
It was like a weird Doctor Strange sort of thing.
It was the clicking, I think, that got me.
Fair. But I enjoyed that. Because it was basically Luke's equivalent scene on Dagobah when he walked into the cave and saw Darth Vader. He fought him, he won, and then he saw his own face in Darth Vader's helmet. The same with Rey. Rey went in there, went to the reflection, asked the question that she always wanted to know, and saw herself. So it's the same exact.
I didn't get that one though, because Luke's one was a bit more obvious. I.e., if you keep going down this rash path, like your father did, you'll become your father. I.e., you'll become the next Darth Vader.
Because they were originally going to do that. He was originally going to be the next Darth Vader, but then they changed the ending of the film.
But then I don't understand what they were going for with the Rey scene.
I think it was just she was looking for her parents because she wanted to know where her power came from and why she has it. But then looking in the mirror and seeing herself.
As in, like, it doesn't matter who your parents are. This power came from you.
Exactly. So
right.
You obtain this power. You have this power. Use it. It's more or less that. So
it doesn't matter who your parents are. Basically.
Exactly. That's what I feel that was. Yeah, and the last thing I believe I had was
wait. Before we move on, I just want to comment on something you said just now.
Yeah.
The bit where you were saying about, like, the Luke and the Ben bit, where he was saying, like, oh, if I kill him, it's the right thing to do right now.
Oh, yeah.
I thought watching it the first time, I thought sort of like the same thing. Watching it the second time though, I thought that it was Snoke's manipulation. I.e., Snoke showed Luke all this, like, vision stuff. Of, oh, he's going to be, you know, like, because he thought that Ben was going to go dark and he was doing all this dark stuff in his training, and then when he got in the tent, he was like, oh, maybe I should just quickly look inside. And when he looked inside, I feel like because of Snoke's manipulation, because he said, like, oh, Snoke had already turned him,
Snoke
right?
had already turned him. Yeah.
Snoke had already turned him, but I feel like that was Snoke's manipulation at work, because Snoke was probably putting something in Luke's head to make him see that dark vision, so that he would ignite his lightsaber and cause that whole thing to happen, so that Kylo would finally go to Snoke, because that's what Snoke wanted. But then I think when Luke realizes this, because, like, he realizes it a few seconds afterwards, that there's, like, some sort of manipulation at work, because that's the change on his face. Like, he thinks when he's watching it, he's like, oh my god, this is what's going to happen, and then he takes a step back, and with his lightsaber still ignited, he's like thinking about it and going, or actually, that can't be right. But just as he's coming to the realization, it's already too late, because Ben has seen him with his lightsaber, thinks he's about to kill him, and that whole thing happens anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more Snoke's manipulation at work, right? Like, and Luke trying to about to realize that, but by the time he's realized that there's manipulation or Snoke might be doing something, it's already happened. It's already too late.
I know, fair. Didn't think of that, but I don't know. Okay, cool. I'll do one more thing, and then we'll talk about one more thing, which will be the unanswered questions. But this, because we've both played Battlefront, and because we've both played the story, the campaign, and the DLC, we can appreciate, like, the little links they've done between the two. One of the links they did, like the compass with Luke, so that explains that. I liked that the film opened with the...
Still doesn't explain why he took the compass though.
What, from the Emperor's Vault?
From the Emperor's Vault, yeah. Because, like, in episode 8, it's there. It doesn't do anything though.
No, I think
serves no purpose.
I think the compass was to the island.
Oh,
I think that was the point. So it was a compass to lead you to that island, because that island isn't only for the Force.
Yeah, but then why would he get it at that point in time in Battlefront when he picks it up? He's still young. He hasn't trained the new Jedi yet.
No, that I don't know. He probably kept it on him and then used it afterwards. Or I forgot.
Just like, did he know what was going to happen? Like, I don't know. It's just a bit.
But I think it was more or less he saw it, felt something about it, and was like, "Do you mind if I keep this?" So it's sort of, he knew he needed it, but he just didn't know why. Probably that.
Maybe
his connection. But I like that, and I like the fact that the episode 8 started with the Dreadnought, because the DLC to Battlefront 2...
That was all about getting the Dreadnought plans.
Exactly, yeah, and that was really good because in the game it hypes you to think, what the hell is a Dreadnought? Because everyone's scared of it. And then you see it and you think, my God, I thought a Star Destroyer was bad. But that is frightening. I mean, it was disappointing that they destroyed it very quickly, but at the same time, obviously...
They took a lot of losses.
Yeah, like they did take a lot. But no, I liked that, and it was good for that. Right. Lastly, the unanswered questions. I'll give you Finn. I mean, Finn, we still don't know anything about. This is what I mean. Everyone keeps talking about Rey and her parents and blah blah. I'm more interested in Finn because he had no. We didn't even know his name. We know Rey's name. We don't know Finn's name.
This is the thing, right?
FN2187. That's all we know.
FN2187, or Finn, however you want to call him. They do kind of explain that a little bit more in the Resurrection DLC of Battlefront 2, i.e. Project Resurrection is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's babies being taken from their families, or children being taken from their families. What does he say in the movie in episode 7? I think Finn says age 4. So around that age.
4 or 5, yeah. He was taken and trained.
That's Project Resurrection, is them taking all these children from all these different galaxies and turning them into stormtroopers. And it's kind of like this big oh shit moment when you're watching that cutscene in the Battlefront 2 DLC, because you're like, they actually say this is how the First Order got their fuck ton of army of stormtroopers, because they just took everybody's children.
Yeah.
And that was Project Resurrection. So you're like, oh right, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like Finn's parentage is really that important.
No, it won't be. It'll be
It's
nice.
just because he's another stormtrooper. He's just one of millions. You
Yeah,
could ask who all the stormtroopers' parents were at that point.
Because originally there was this huge theory with when in episode 7 when Finn first stands next to Snoke and Snoke looks to the left. Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren looks to the left as if he can sense something about him. So everyone thought that Finn was force sensitive, and
it was more his. I think Kylo's just sensing that he's turning traitor.
Yeah, that's all that was. That's why he screamed at the end traitor, because he could see it. Like, so that's all that was. But I mean, yeah, no, I do like Finn just because you don't know anything about him, but he's such a great, lovable character. That's what I like about Finn. But that's one sort of unanswered question. At least his name.
He's a very human character because he's very cowardly, but at the same time he tries to be brave.
Yeah, it's nice. But I mean, that's his. I'd at least like to know his name in the last film. Just that, and that's all. Another unanswered question is Snoke. Obviously, all of these unanswered questions we'll get in the last film, but Snoke was, in a way, if you look at only the first 2 films and don't think about a third film, like most of the people that have given bad criticism have done, but if you don't think about a third film, yes, Snoke was wasted, because in the first film he was this dark figure in a hologram that looks huge, that was scary. In the second film, he was still scary until the moment he died, and it was just like, wow.
They really humiliated his sort of presence, I guess, when they showed his cut up dead body for a second time.
Yeah, flop
and then
on
come
the
back
floor.
to it. It's all flobbled on the floor. It's like, I don't know, flies around it or whatever.
Yeah.
Although I've got a comment about this. The person that I mentioned who I was watching about, the Star Wars fan, I was watching his video the other day. He made a comment saying that it's funny that people are saying, oh, we want to know more about Snoke and all this, and there's all these unanswered questions about Snoke. However, what he said in that video was very interesting. He said, we know as much about Snoke at the moment as you knew about the Emperor in the original trilogy.
Exactly.
Meaning, you don't know anything about the Emperor through episode 4 through 6, to the point where the Emperor dies, you still don't know who he is, or what his intentions, you know what his intentions were, but you learn about him through episode 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Through episode 4 to 6, you don't know anything about him. That's the same thing with Snoke. Episodes 7 and 8 so far, we know as much as we knew about the Emperor through episodes 4 and 6.
Yeah.
I feel like in episode 9, if they're going to do it, they're going to explain it in episode 9. Maybe in a flashback, or maybe he's still alive, who knows?
Yeah.
Because I said to you as well, at the end of the film, I didn't realise this until the second time I watched it, but at the end of the film, I feel like Snoke may still be alive, just because he said he was the one connecting Kylo and Rey in those sort of Force vision things where they're put in the same room even though they're in vastly different places, and neither of them could be doing it because, as Kylo says near the beginning, you couldn't be doing this because the power would kill you. So, and obviously it means he can't do it because he just said to Rey, you can't be doing this, and he's like, he doesn't think that she's any more powerful than him, and they're kind of both equal at that point. And Snoke's meant to be this all-powerful figure as well. that when they have that one at the end where she's getting on the Millennium Falcon and he's picking up the dice in the Rebel base, and they still see each other even though Snoke's dead, it could be that Snoke's still alive, but you just don't know it yet.
Yeah, so that little link could have been
it. He's still connecting them one last time.
Yeah, because I honestly think that's why Hux was like, long live. Is it Hux? Yeah.
Long live the Supreme Leader.
Long live.
I feel like that line was meant for Kylo though, just because he force chokes him to be like, I am now the Supreme Leader, without actually saying it.
Oh no.
And that's why he was saying it, just to keep his own life.
I just mean I feel like he said long live the Supreme Leader because I feel like in episode 9 there'll now be this thing between Hux and Ren, where they'll both be at each other's throats.
They're both trying to fight for that leadership of power.
Exactly, and I feel like Hux will probably do something like try to resurrect, or that he will know something that Kylo doesn't know. That actually Snoke's alive, and I know the entire time that you killed him. So now I'm going to trap you. Do you know what I mean? Something stupid like that. But I feel like that will probably happen. But I mean, for Snoke to still be alive would be pretty good because it would sort of further give him the bio of him being so powerful with the Force that he can even survive death.
I've just thought of something. You know, Luke is so powerful that he can literally pull himself across space and look real.
It's not him, but just to say before you say, I don't think it's him doing it. It's more the island's power. Because the island is of Jedi nature and it's a Jedi origin. I don't. It's not him. It's him and the power of the island. Because you know when he first reached out to Leia, which I thought was a bit of a weird scene, wasted in the first time I watched it. He just randomly reached to Leia, and Leia went Luke, and that was it. And I thought that was a bit weird. What was the point of that? But I realised it the second time round that scene could be used in episode 9, where they'll probably have like a long conversation that they'll flash back to. But you'll see. Did you notice that the whole island sort of shook and like everything moved on the island when he did that?
I knew that the water puddle moved.
Yeah, so it's like him funneling through the island to create that much power. So that's why I think it wasn't just him that did. I mean, yeah, he's powerful, but I feel like he used the island
as like a booster signal or something,
more or less. Yeah. But what? Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, you know, because if we're assuming that Luke is that powerful, where he can literally pull himself across another galaxy to be a physical presence in another world and interact with things, like he picks up the dice and all that kind of stuff as a Force ghost, and we've already seen Yoda interact with the real world. Do you think Snoke is, if we're believing that Snoke is as powerful as we believe, as we've been set up to believe he is, do you not think that it is also possible that Snoke could use his own power to be on that ship whilst also being somewhere else? Like, his real body is somewhere else, but he's got like a physical version of himself sat in that chair using the Force against Rey and Kylo and whatever, and he can see, he can like narrate everything that's happening. He can still see in Kylo's head, and he can see what's actually happening, but he's letting it happen to think that Kylo's got one up on him because he knows that he's turning traitor. So he lets him think that he's killed him, uses like his Force manipulation of his Force ghost to cut his body in half because he's more powerful than Luke, let's say. That it looks like, and it even sounds when he hits the ground and stuff, he makes like the sound and uses the Force to make a sound and make it look like it's a real thing. Because to be honest, you never see them deal with his body afterwards. You just see that it's definitely still there. Yeah. But could that not be maybe him manipulating the Force as a Force ghost, or of some kind, or like a Force version of himself in another place in the galaxy while he's actually safe somewhere else?
Yeah, no, true. I mean, I didn't think of that, but I did think that Snoke's place where he hid out, or where his base was, I honestly did think it was going to be Mustafar, because they did go back to that in Rogue One, because Darth Vader still uses it. So I feel like that they were going to go back to that in episode 8, but they didn't. But they could still do in episode 9. It would be amazing if they ended episode 9 with a duel between Rey and Kylo on Mustafar. That would be really good.
So cool. Just like a bit like Obi-Wan and Anakin, but like maybe a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, like Anakin is still, I don't know, I feel like Kylo, one of his biggest complaints about Kylo that I've heard from people is he's a whiny little brat. But then Anakin was a whiny little brat to people as well.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Anakin, and what was more annoying about Anakin, he was so whiny and bitchy about Padme.
I don't like sand.
I don't like sand. All this bollocks about Padme, it's just so dreary.
So rough,
Like,
of course.
The whole
It gets everywhere.
the middle chunk of Attack of the Clones was so dreary and boring because it was just Anakin sopping over Padme, and then the beginning, the whole 3/4 chunk of the third film was just Anakin sopping over Padme because the Emperor put in his mind that Padme was going to die, which is true, but it was just so annoying and dreary.
But she only died because of his actions.
Yeah, because it was.
If he had just been normal, they would have been fine.
Yeah.
What a twist, though! Like, imagine a world where. Could you imagine what would have happened in 4, 5, and 6 if Anakin never turned? Like, if Anakin never had that vision, he just acted normal and Padme survived. Could you imagine? Oh my god, it'd be. I can't even imagine what 4, 5, and 6 would be.
Or imagine if he did turn, and Padme was still alive and by his side. Then you'd have Padme, Luke, and Leia, all dark people in one.
Oh, the universe would be fucked at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
but
yeah, no, we're getting off topic. What was you saying about episode?
I've actually forgotten as well. But the fact that it was just so the earlier films were so dreary because of that. But if they fought on Mustafar, Kylo and Rey, that would be great. But yeah, I do agree with Snoke. But to be honest, even if Snoke was cut in half and then came back to life, I wouldn't be surprised because Darth Maul has been cut in half and he was magically alive. Anakin.
He came back as a robot though.
Anakin was cut in half and cut diagonally upward and burnt alive, and he was still alive, made half robotic.
As a robot.
To be honest,
maybe Snoke's a robot.
Snoke will probably come back as a robot, and he so he will have robotic legs. But that's another thing as well. Everyone was so disappointed with this and disgusted and blah blah. But yet, the fight between Ben Kenobi and Darth Maul, that duel lasted 5 seconds. It was an amazing scene, but it lasted 5 seconds, and it wasn't even a duel. It was Ben Kenobi moving his lightsaber 3 times in defence.
Do you mean Darth Vader? Sorry, just to clarify. You said Darth Maul.
No, Ben Kenobi and Darth Maul. Oh, you haven't watched You haven't watched.
Oh
Rebels,
no! No, you are referring to the scene I think you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify, because there are Ben Kenobi and Darth Maul do have a fight scene in the what animated show is it? Clone Wars.
No, Rebels.
Rebels. They do have an anime. You can search it up on YouTube. No, it's only because most people won't necessarily know about that. They'll know about Ben Kenobi versus Darth Vader.
Fair.
Might think that you're saying the wrong thing. There is actually a fight between Ben Kenobi and Darth Maul.
Yeah, it's not really a fight. It lasts about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's not very long.
But it's literally equally the same as Kylo and Luke, where they don't actually fight, and it doesn't last very long, but there's a lot of meaning behind it. So basically, that's my thing with this film, is that this film isn't the action-packed film that everybody wanted, like Episode 3 and Episode 1 with the duel of fates and blah blah. But it has the biggest form of meaning possible. Like, yes, we have unanswered questions like Rey's heritage, even though it's clear that she's just of nothingness. We have, there are some things that still aren't answered, but they can be answered in small ways. And to be honest, like someone said to me, they still haven't answered how Maz got the lightsaber. But to be honest, she already kind of did answer that. Maz is force sensitive, and she goes around collecting force sensitive junk, or she goes around collecting it and hiding it from the Emperor. So when she was probably on Bespin at one point, because you see that she gets around, she found it and hid it from the Emperor, because she said she hid it from the Emperor. And in
as far as I'm aware, they did answer that in a Q&A or a comic or something like that. Basically, it was when Luke gets his hand chopped off in Episode 5 and it goes down that chute. It just goes down another chute, ends up somewhere. Someone gives it to someone else, someone gives it to somebody else, and it keeps trading and moving. And then eventually Maz buys it or gets it from somebody else, and she keeps it because she's a collector. Yeah. And that's literally it. It's nothing really like big or anything like that.
People expecting it to be.
It was just a thing that it passed hand to hand to hand until it got to Maz Kanata's collection.
Yeah. But it's just yeah. And there's I don't know if there's anything else unanswered that I can think of right now. But yeah. I
will say one more thing. Is a lot of people are saying that there wasn't enough Kylo Ren and Rey stuff in this film. There wasn't enough Jedi stuff in Episode 8. But the thing is, you've got a lot of Finn and Rose and Poe stuff going on, and not so much of Rey and Kylo Ren stuff going on in Episode 8. But I feel like that's kind of done on purpose. I.e., Finn's story is mostly wrapped up now, which I wanted to come back to anyway. Finn's story is mostly wrapped up now. So what do you do in Episode 9 for him now? It's like
because
you can't really. His story is done. Like his whole thing was he he went away from the First Order, went away from Phasma, came back to Phasma in Episode 8, defeated her. He's now with the Rebellion. That's it. That's his story. He's come full circle. He's
done. Underwhelming fight as well, admittedly.
Yeah,
it was a good fight, but at the same time, the trailers built it up to be this big thing,
and it really wasn't.
It lasted about 20 seconds.
There's your lightsaber duel, but it just without lightsabers.
Exactly. Yeah. And she fell down. She didn't even really die. She's
fell. Not Captain Phasma's not a like they built her up in both films to be. Oh my god, Captain Phasma is going to be great. She's barely in both films, and when she does show up, she doesn't really do anything important. Yeah, she's not a badass. Like it's the whole thing of the whole controversial conversation around Boba Fett, right?
I was just going to say,
Boba Fett is like the most awesome guy. What does he actually do? Yeah. He shows up in Episode 4, doesn't do much, doesn't do anything. He's just there.
He's just standing next to
Episode Boba. 5, probably he gives Han Solo back to Jabba.
Yeah,
and that's about it. He really doesn't do much in that film either. And then Episode 6, he has some shitty death. And he barely fights. Well, he's really not an important character. It's the same thing with Captain Phasma. They look cool, but they don't do anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You know Boba Fett's not dead, right?
I did not know that.
Oh, fair. Because he's I mean, in terms of the film universe, he's dead. I don't think they're going to go back to that. But in terms of the comic, Boba's still alive. Because when he fell in the pit of Sarlacc, he managed to escape. And I think he then wanted to seek revenge and go after Han. I don't know the full story, but I know that Boba Fett is still alive. But yeah, no, I do agree. Boba Fett was a character that everybody loved, and he barely did fuck all. Same with Captain Phasma. I think it's because of the actor behind.
Same with Jango Fett as well. It's like barely a character.
Yeah, no, but he did chopped off. He did more than Boba, definitely.
Oh yeah, he had more fight.
Boba Young did more than Boba Old.
Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
He actually used the Slave One ship and shot at Obi-Wan. Like, he did so much more as a kid than he did when he was grown up. But I think it was more the actress behind Captain Phasma that everyone was so hyped about because she was a Game of Thrones actor. So it's like, because I remember a few days before people were tweeting going, "Oh my god, I only just realised blah 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 from Game of Thrones is Captain Phasma. Cannot wait for this fight." So
I don't get that whole thing with her seeing. The fact that her mask rips and you see her eye in that as well, and it's just like, is that supposed to give me feeling? Like, am I supposed to be sad that she's about to die? Or
do you know what I mean?
Because I feel like, why would you see her eye as a form of expression if you didn't want me to be sad or see something in her that's changing? But like, she's still evil to the very end. So I don't get what that whole scene was about seeing her eye through her mask.
I think it was just for the audience of. I think
it's just showing that she's female,
the actress,
even if you can't tell from the voice.
Yeah, it's just that basically. To be honest, she might not even be dead because she fell through.
Mate, if she's not dead now, she's died twice. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd just kill her.
Yeah, she fell through in an explosion, and Snoke's ship didn't blow up. It ripped in half, but it didn't blow up. The Star Destroyers behind it blew up. But
you can't send her to a crushing thing and have her survive, then literally chuck her in fire and still have her survive. I'm sorry, there's only so much I can take. Like, if you're going to kill someone twice, just let them be dead. For God's sake.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. But yeah. So I'll wrap up with overall, The Last Jedi is a brilliant film. It's more the meaning of the film that makes it better, because a lot of people disagree with it because of this, that, and the other. But they need to look at the underlayers of the film. They need to. They can't say, oh, it's bad because of the Leia scene, or they can't say it's bad because Luke didn't duel, or they can't say it's bad because Rey. And so on and so on. They can't say all because of the unanswered questions when there's one more film to be made. Like, it's the stupidest thing to argue about. It's a great film, and the worst thing is there was a petition that's recently come up of having Episode 8 striked off the canon, and it's got like 11,000 signatures. But what's stupid is that the person who made the petition then the next day or a few days later then wrote on the petition saying, I have a confession to make. I was drugged up on a lot of medication, and I was feeling really tired and in pain after watching the film because I recently injured myself. So I made this petition out of pure anger, blah blah. I feel like too many of us have signed this for the wrong reason. It's like, fuck off. I'm sorry. It's so stupid. Like, it's such a ridiculous thing. But it is not the worst Star Wars film. There are worse.
It is a great Star Wars film, and it really adds to the canon. Just for me personally.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good film. It doesn't have to be like the first 3 films where it's all about fancy flying, dueling Jedi. Like, it doesn't have to be about any of that. It's supposed to be carrying on from the originals, which it's doing. It's carrying on in the originals in the way of it's just to do with the rebellion, the Empire after years and years after the Jedi.
It's just a natural next chapter.
Yeah, that's all it is.
I mean, I'm not saying everybody's going to everybody who's a Star Wars fan is going to like this film. I know there are going to be people out there who genuinely just don't like it, and that's fine. It's just, film's objective, whatever. But I liked it a lot. You liked it a lot. And for those that were saying about, like, to get back on what I was saying earlier, the whole thing of people saying, "Oh, there's not enough Rey and Kylo Ren in this film." To be honest, because they've done Finn's story in Episode 8 and he's kind of come full circle now, you probably get, and because you got so much of that in Episode 8 and not so much of Rey and Kylo Ren, there's so much now to do with Kylo Ren and Rey that will be Episode 9.
Yeah.
Episode 8 was all about Finn, Poe, the Republic, and all, whatever.
Yeah.
Episode 9 is now going to be about the Jedi side of it, i.e. Rey, Kylo Ren. You'll get more of that because you didn't get so much of that in Episode 8. Now you're going to get the majority of that is going to be the Episode 9, because Finn is done now. You can't really do much of him, so he'll be the minor part. They'll basically just switch roles.
Yeah, so he'll be the little minor, and the other two.
So Episode 9, which I'm looking forward to because, as I say, that's my favourite part about Star Wars is all the Jedi stuff and the mythology and the lightsaber duels and whatever. So Episode 9, if that is going to be the case, where you're going to get a lot more Rey and a lot more Kylo Ren, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to wrap this up. I really like the film. I guess let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
I don't. I've had enough. I've generally had enough. You can let him know. I've had enough arguing with people about. Oh God, it's just annoyed me so much the amount of people that keep saying the same thing. Oh, it didn't explain this. Wait for the next film. Oh, there was no duel. Fuck off. Like it's so irritating. But either way, yeah.
Well, you know our thoughts anyway.
If you don't like the film for the right reasons, that's fine. If you don't like the film for the wrong reasons, go under a bus. I'm joking. That's really bad. No.
Don't literally go under a bus. To clarify that we're not responsible for anyone who may chuck themselves under a bus under the name Star Wars Episode 8. So
yeah, unless it's a TFL bus, and that's different. I feel like I feel like it would cost less money if you went under a bus that wasn't TFL. This is getting a bit British now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting very British.
Yeah. Right,
but back to Britishness on the next one of these that we do. So
yeah, of course. You can do the outro. I did the intro.
Okay, I'll leave it off here. Thanks for listening, guys. I was about to say thanks for watching, but there's nothing on this one. So thanks for listening, guys. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye. Brilliant. Well done.